There are a total of 24 defunct NBL teams, and today I'll be giving you a brief rundown of every single one of them. How successful were they? How long did they last? And why did they fold? Well, questions like that and many more will be answered. Let's get started. Bankstown were one of 10 inaugural teams that kick-started the NBL in 1979 and lasting until 1987. Bankstown would only make one finals appearance in their time in the NBL and also changing their name in 1986 to the West Sydney Westars. Isn't a Westar a gun? Then came 1988 and they merged with the Sydney Supersonics to become the Sydney Kings. The Cannons were the first team from Canberra to have any part in the NBL and played their home games at the AIS Arena. And they were a pretty successful team in the NBL, even being in the first ever grand final, but going down by just 1 point at the hands of St Kilda. Although Canberra would bounce back to go on to win premierships in 1983, 84 and 88, whilst losing another grand final in 1989. The club went down at the end of the 2002 to 2003 season due to financial issues and lost star players, leading them to an 11 and 19 record to finish off. And then they were brought out and relocated to Newcastle. The Astronauts were another founding NBL team in 1979 and were pretty bad early on if you ask me. They rebranded in 1982 to become the Sydney Supersonics and suddenly became a successful team from that. Well, for 2 years that is, but even finished first in 1983 but went down pretty early on in finals. They played games at the Alexandria Stadium from 1979 through to 1985 before relocating to the State Sports Centre in 86. And then in 1988 they merged with West Sydney to form the still established Sydney Kings. Coburg joined the NBL in 1980, a year after the league was established, followed by a bunch of teams that joined the league that season and the season after as well. They didn't start all too well, finishing 9th and then 10th, although from 1982 to 1997 they would only go on to miss the finals just once and started a long period of success. They were NBL champions in 86 and 94 and even finished first one year in 1990, although going down the semi-finals to Perth. At the end of the 1986 season, they rebranded from Coburg to the North Melbourne Giants, but continued to play games at the Glass House before merging with South East Melbourne to form the Victorian Titans. A team that I'm a lot more familiar with is the Devonport Warriors in Devonport, Tasmania. They were a short-lived team in the NBL, although still a club today that lasted from 1983 to 1984. They didn't do too much in their time in the league, no grand finals or anything like that, playing games at the Devonport Recreation Centre. Sadly for Devonport, they had a bad rep in their league as they broke records for the lowest points total in a game at 40 and also the biggest losing margin by 58 points to the Brisbane Bullets, which I don't know if that still stands today, but anyway. The year after, the NBL wanted the clubs dropped from 17 to 14 and the Warriors went out. Another short-lived team in the NBL was the then Frankston Bears, who are still a team today but now known as the Blues, and currently not playing in the NBL of course. They were a successful team in other comps before joining the NBL, winning the SEABL and also the ABA National Championship the year prior. The Bears weren't anything special in the NBL, finishing 6th and then 8th, and then leaving the league in 1984 at season's end after just 2 years, and then went back to their regional league. If you want to know where they played, Frankston Basketball Stadium. Oh yeah, and they're actually still in the NBL 1 South, which I didn't know. The Geelong Cats? What's going on here? Well, Geelong joined in 1982, as did many teams as mentioned before, and probably had one of the smallest capacity arenas of all of them. Still look pretty nice though. They finished top 2 their first 3 seasons and back-to-back minor premiers in 83 and 84, although didn't go too far. Sadly, Geelong only made one more final in their time in the league in 1991, being as the Geelong Supercats 2, who rebranded in 1988. I wonder why. And then after 1991, they just kind of existed until they sold their license to the NBL at the end of the 1996 season. So Glenelg played 1 season in their NBL journey, also being a founding club. Finished last, and were never seen in the NBL again. That's literally it. Well, not quite, I guess. They did make history winning the first ever NBL game against Sydney, which is an achievement and a half, I guess. But only managed 2 more wins for the rest of the season. Came dead last and were replaced by Forestville. Okay, If you're looking for a team that just kind of existed, Gold Coast Cougars were pretty much the definition of that. They joined the NBL in 1990 as an expansion team and played at the Carrara Indoor Stadium. It only took 2 seasons before they rebranded from the Cougars to the Rollers and wore this unique colour scheme of green, blue and white. They would only finish a high of 8th in 1991, and after financial issues really cost them. With no star players, they finished 14th at the end of the 1996 season, and the financial struggle got the Rollers and their NBL licence revoked. Fast forward to November 2006 and a new team has been created in the Gold Coast called the Gold Coast Blaze, just a decade after losing their licence as well. They've got it back. This time playing their games at the Furnace, or mostly known as the Gold Coast Convention and Exhibition Centre. Originally meant to be named the Heat, by the way, but couldn't thanks to the Miami Heat and the NBA. Chris Goulding also played here, which I didn't know happened, and the Blaze being more successful than the Cougars and the Rollers, qualifying for finals in 3 of their 5 seasons, however, only making it as far as the semis. In May of 2012, the Blaze would enter voluntary administration and try to keep themselves alive thanks to a random $500,000 injection from a mystery fan. $500,000 I should add. Although it wasn't enough to keep them competing in the NBL 2012-13 season, and they were withdrawn from the league. Before the JackJumpers, there was the Hobart Devils from 1983 to 1996. The Devils also played at the Derwent Entertainment Centre, or now known as MyState Bank Arena, but first started out at the Canberra Sports Centre from 1983 to 1988. The Devils didn't show too much success in their time in the NBL. They did finish the highest place of 6th in 1984, but sadly for them, still was enough to qualify for finals. But their best season came in 1987, getting 14 out of 26 wins and finished 7th on the ladder. Sadly though, like many clubs you'll see today, folding in 1996 from financial struggle, and were never seen again until the good old Jackies. Hunter Pirates was a very short-lived NBL team from Newcastle that played at the Entertainment Centre. Remember the Canberra Cannons? Well, that's where they relocated at the end of the 2002 to 2003 season. They went alright in the league, finished 8th twice, but got knocked out in the elimination final in both. Although in the 2003 to 2004 season, they were in shambles, winning just 2 out of 33 games. And at the end of the 2005 to 2006 season, they withdrew from the competition from financial struggles. These poor clubs. C-A-S-I-N-O Casino. Launceston Casino City was the first Tasmanian NBL team to enter the league, unfortunately only lasting 3 seasons from 1980 to 1982, famously winning the league in 1981 and being the first team to win it since St Kilda for a 2-peat. Their home was Dowling Street Stadium, a little out of Launceston, but nonetheless was a major venue for them. 1981 was their only good season and the only one that they would qualify for finals in. 1980 they finished 8th, and in 1982 a shocking 13th place season before they folded. Another founding club was the Newcastle Falcons. They played across 2 venues in their time in the NBL, one being the Broadmeadows Basketball Stadium, and then in 1992 relocated to an already mentioned Newcastle Entertainment Centre. They were an early contending team once the league started, however would only manage to make the finals 6 out of 21 seasons, and only as far to a semi-final in 84 and 85. The club majorly struggled financially in the 90s, leading them to their downfall with problems with sponsors, clothing and sports equipment company Topper, leading them to leaving the league. Nunawading, I hope I'm saying that right. They were another inaugural team that lasted from 1979 up to 1991. They were a team located in East Burwood, wherever that may be, and played at Nunawading Basketball Centre. They played off in 2 losing grand finals in 1981 and 91, and in 1987 changed their name to Eastside Spectres, until eventually in 92 they merged with the Southern Melbourne Saints. Yep, Singapore had an NBL team. The Singapore Slingers were the second team outside of Australia behind New Zealand to enter the NBL, although came after a group brought out the former Hunter Pirates team and relocated them to Singapore, where they still played occasional games in Newcastle, believe it or not, but most times playing their games at a 12,000 capacity Singapore indoor stadium. They finished 8th in their first season, going down in the elimination final, and the year after finished 12th with just 6 wins from 30. Sadly, from a huge increase in international travel, it cost the Slingers and they couldn't find financial success big enough to keep them playing in the NBL, where they would then play in an Asian basketball league called the ASEAN Basketball League. In fact, they formed it. The South Dragons was an inner southeast Melbourne City-based team. That was a lot of words. They were formed in 2006 where they built a fierce rivalry with an already established Melbourne Tigers team and also played at John Cain Arena. They made finals in the 2006-07 season, finishing 7th, but went down to Cairns. Missed finals in 07-08, but incredibly, in the 2008-2009 season, they finished first with 22 wins and 8 losses. Beat Townsville 2-1 in the semi-finals, and an even crazier turn of events, took on their rivals Melbourne in the Big Dance and beat them 3-2, winning their first and sadly their last premiership before they became dissatisfied with the management of the league and left after their team's success apparently. Google better not let me down here. A more well-known team was the South East Melbourne Magic. They played at a massive Rod Laver Arena, and if I'm being serious, they probably had one of the best runs out of any team that's played in the NBL. Well, minus the Perth Wildcats, but they're not on this list anyways. In their first season, they finished first and won the grand final while starting a major success in the club, making finals in every single one of their seasons, winning another in 1996, although heartbreakingly for them, despite finishing first in both years, going down back-to-back years in the grand final to rivals Melbourne, who got revenge on them from the season prior and then lost to Adelaide, and also finished an all-time low of 3rd in 1994. At season's end, they merged with the North Melbourne Giants and became the Victorian Titans and continued to play in the NBL in a different form. Another AFL named NBL team was the St Kilda Saints, and also another founding team in 1979, and are famous for winning the first ever NBL trophy by a single point. Also the year after by 25, and were deemed the team to beat in the first 3 seasons. They also tried to qualify for the 1981 FIBA Club World Cup, although they got sent out in the first round. The Saints changed their name to the Westside Saints in 1987, and leaving their home ground in the Albert Park Stadium, and then played the Glass House for a bit, but then finished at the Kilda Stadium. I think I said that right, Kilda? I don't know, I've probably mispronounced a lot of these names. And just 4 years later, they changed their name again to the Southern Melbourne Saints, but then the year after, in 1992, a merger with Eastside Spectre to become the South East Magic happened. A team that I'm probably going to talk about the most here is the most recent team on this list to have left the NBL, and that being the Townsville Crocodiles. They were established in 1993 and left the NBL in 2016. They were first known as the Suns from 1993 to 1998 and had little to no success, finishing a highest of 8th position in that time. Townsville had one of the most loyal fan bases, selling out their first 69 games at the Townsville Entertainment Centre, but was broken due to the redevelopment of the venue. Once again, the NBA teams were not happy with NBL teams stealing their names, so the Phoenix Suns got involved, forcing them to change their name to the Crocodiles in 1998. Although at long last, they had success from 99 to 2012, missing the finals just 3 times. Sadly for them though, they only reached the grand final once, going down to a strong Wollongong team 2-1. In 2013, the Crocodiles lost a major sponsor in the Barrier Reef basketball, so the club then became a community-owned club. Crocs then relocated stadiums to the Townsville RSL Stadium for their last couple seasons, then put into voluntary administration, but then re-entered the league for the final time in the 2015 to 2016 season. Unfortunately, the Crocodiles going down after the 15 to 16 season because of financial pressure, mostly due to having a t-shirt cannon that was seized by Queensland Police for apparently being deemed as a Category B weapon. There you go. The Titans were a team that was made of a merger between South East Melbourne Magic and the North Melbourne Giants in 1997. They played at a variety of venues during their 6 years in the league: Melbourne Park from 1998 to 2000, Vodafone Arena from 2000 to 2002, and ended at the Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre. They made finals in every season as the Titans, making the grand final 2 years in a row, but sadly for them, going down to both Adelaide and Perth. Those two have caused a lot of destruction for these teams. They bounced back the next 2 seasons with first place finishes, but went out in straight sets in both. They rebranded to the Giants in 2002, and they weren't very good. The team went into administration at the end of the 2003 to 2004 season and folded soon after. West Adelaide are a team with a strong history. They were formed in 1957 and were an inaugural team as well. From their first 6 seasons, they featured in finals 4 times and even won the grand final against Geelong in 1982. They only finished a low of 6th, but wouldn't be enough to qualify for the finals. They merged with the Adelaide City Eagles in '85 and then became one big Adelaide City team. I'll get to Adelaide City soon though. Also, West Adelaide surprisingly played at the Port Adelaide Recreation Centre, which I did not know. They aren't actually a defunct team, by the way. They still compete in the NBL 1 Central to this day. The West Sydney Razorbacks was a standalone second team to join the NBL from West Sydney, playing games at the State Sports Centre located between Sydney Olympic Park and Homebush. The Razorbacks, nicknamed the Pigs, made the finals in their second season and the grand final in their fourth, although it went down to Adelaide. 2 years later, they made it again and lost 3-2 to their rival Sydney, and the Razorbacks then rebranded in 2008 to 2009 to become Sydney Spirit. They finished 8th that season and then called it quits, not being merged with the Sydney Kings but just folded altogether. Forestville were another short-lived two-season team from 1981 to 1982, and they just kind of existed in the NBL until they didn't. Forestville played at Wayville, a town 4 minutes out of Forestville. They finished both seasons with a shocking 6-16 record and never reached the finals once. They also changed their name prior to the 1982 season to a name that you may have heard of before in the West Torrens Eagles. I wonder we've heard this one before. In saying that, I think they were around longer than the sample club West Torrens Eagles anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. But the name change would prove to be pointless as financial struggles broke out for both them and West Adelaide, so the State Association formed a merger between the two and formed Adelaide City Eagles for the 1982 season. But that concluded their short NBL history. How many of these clubs have you actually heard of? Comment down below and let me know how many you did know. If you went in to enjoy today's video and like to see more videos like this in the future, do leave a like and subscribe to the channel because I will be uploading more content in the future. So stay tuned for all that, and I'll see you in the next one. See yous.